Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd just like to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this project with us. I think it's an important project, and I think we made a lot of progress, and we're going to make a lot more progress moving forward. On June 12, 2020, the governor signed an executive order requiring each local government in the state to adopt a policing reform plan by April 1st, 2021. The order authorizes the director of the Division of Budget to condition state aid to localities on the adoption of such a plan. So it's important that we come up with a plan that is acceptable to the state so that it doesn't impact our state aid. Collaborative is a key word. It would be a mistake to frame these discussions as an adversarial process or an effort to impose top-down solutions. Issues must be aired, but solutions must be crafted. The collaborative process should review the needs of the community served by its police agency and evaluate the department's current policies and practices. Establish policies that allow police to effectively and safely perform their duties. Involve the entire community in the discussion. Provide policy recommendations resulting from this review. Offer a plan for public comment, and present the plan to the local legislative body to ratify or adopt it, and to certify adoption of the adopted plan to the state budget director on or before April 1st, 2021. So that's our charge moving forward. Just to sort of lay out what has transpired and what will transpire, as you know, we had 3 community panels, of which we had 10 community representatives each panel. We had actually 60 applicants, and we got it down to 30. One of the criteria was diversity, ethnic diversity, and also the criteria was geographic diversity. We wanted to make sure that all corners of the county were covered by this process. We've received a lot of good input from those 3 panels, some of which we'll be looking at, this panel will be looking at, to sort of formulate policies, procedures, changes, or new programs moving forward. So our work is cut out for us. This panel was going to be meeting tonight. We'll be meeting tomorrow night, breaking into groups, and there may be some future meetings moving forward as well. So the bulk of the work is really going to be this panel. And again, it's going to play off of the input we received from the community panel. And then our final panel is called a plan review panel, which is going to include law enforcement, some elected officials, but more importantly, seven community members are going to be on that panel as well. Some of you are going to be on that panel. So that's basically the makeup of what we're going to do. But before I turn it over, I just wanted to introduce Sheriff Bartlett, who's here and an integral part of the panels. Mike Benvenuto, who's the public safety chairman and has been in law enforcement for 30 years and is also co-chair of this panel or this committee. Bill Hughes, who is a former supervisor, a community representative, and has long time been a advocate for for crucial conversations around these issues. And I also want to introduce our facilitator, Newell Eaton, who I'll be turning it over to right now.
Thank you, Matt. I'm hearing myself. Would like really, first of all, thank everybody who's here tonight, as well as those of you who are getting to observe this on the online experience, who aren't participating but get to watch this. Really, with all the things you could be doing with your life, it really demonstrates the kind of community commitment there is in Columbia County to come out and focus on how to improve yourself. So I'd like to applaud all of you for being here, or those of you that are even not in, that I'm not seeing on the screen, but that are participating in this experience tonight. What's different about tonight is based on what we heard in the panels, it really, the first three, it seemed that the natural next step ought to be to hear from those folks who are in law enforcement service about what's going on already, and responding to some of the questions that were raised in those first three panels, as well as the things that are spoken of in the request from the governor's plan. So we're going to start out tonight from hearing from the Columbia County Sheriff, David Bartlett, and his team of folks with a PowerPoint presentation on what's been happening already. We'll then take a short break, and then we're going to hear from a series of town and village about what's going on in their town related to this. And then we're going to hear from some law enforcement related services
Okay.
from.
I found this on the web for town and Village Police Chase Bear Town. Check it out.
And I should turn off all my other devices before speaking. So let's start right with, and that we're here from Twin Counties Recovery Services and from Mental Health and Human Services will be the last things we listen to and learn about tonight, which will then fold into what we're going to do tomorrow night. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Bartlett, who's got a presentation for us.
Beth, excuse me, Newell, Beth Schuster has a question.
Okay. Hello, Beth. What's your question?
Beth? Oh. Beth, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, Beth.
I can't hear anything anybody's saying. It's all breaking up.
Huh. All right.
All I hear is little
That
drums.
happens to me sometimes. If you go out of the meeting and come back in, it might be a better connection.
Did you hear that, Beth?
I don't think she's hearing us.
Okay. Sherry, do you have her phone number?
I do not. I can try to see if I can get it.
Okay, let's see if we can do that and get her set up by phone. Okay. Okay, let's just move on for the sake of time. I realize we'll find a way to get you back on. Okay? Sheriff, are you ready? I'm not hearing you. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm on now. Sherry, I just sent you Beth's number, just so you're advised. All right, good evening, everyone. Again, as Noel said, we've had 3 previous meetings with some great input by several of the panelists. It's really good to hear what the public has to say and has to offer. And going forward, there's nothing wrong and there's nothing bad about listening and changing as the times go on. So from the beginning of this, we've been very excited here. We do have a lot of programs already in place, and it's nice to be able to get them out here tonight, some of our programs that we do have. So we have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. There's approximately 50 some odd slides that we're going to go through, and I'm actually going to blank out on my screen, but I'll still be able to talk, and we're going to do our presentation through that. So if you give me just 1 second, and I'm going to get out of my camera, and we're going to get on to the PowerPoint presentation here. Okay, so everybody should be seeing the screen now. Police reform panel.
We see it, Sheriff.
Okay, thank you. And just about the sheriff's office, a little bit of what we are and what we do here. We have 54 full-time law enforcement personnel that work here at the sheriff's office. There's actually 22 deputy sheriffs that patrol the county 24/7. And I'll get into the shifts and the shift strengths and so on and so forth after that. There's 3 resident deputies, and we had more, but we've got a few people out in some spots that we haven't been able to fill right now because of some issues. But there's 3 resident deputies that patrol. They're more or less like a community policing type officer. They reside in the area where they work. So basically, everybody knows their name. You go down into the Copake Ankrum area, and everybody knows Deputy Kilmer down there, and it just makes it a little bit easier for when people are going to talk to somebody and they look and they say, "Hey, it's Joe." It makes them more comfortable. And again, going along with the governor's guidelines as far as community policing and getting out there and knowing the public. This program has been around for a while. It's been a very good program, very successful, and it's going to stay with me as long as I'm here. Again, going forward, just trying to get some more bodies into it. We have 9 criminal investigators. Those investigators they go through different sections. We have people assigned to narcotics. We have a SVU unit where they basically handle elder abuse. When I came in, I made that unit for elder abuse and sex crimes. They work down with DSS, very closely with DSS. And the other investigators handle criminal cases. We have 8 school resource deputies and a DARE deputy. This was a program that I didn't develop it, but we put it into service when I became the sheriff. Back several years ago, I was a chairperson at a Columbia County Safe School Committee. And it's really important to have that people working with the schools and have that family type bonding where the police officers are there, the kids see them, they know them, the staff see them, they know them. And again, getting back to everybody knows your name. You go into Ichabod and you know Deputy Sam, or Deputy Pat, or there's so many. You get into Hudson, and Zach's been doing an awesome job there. And it's just really nice to have that personal relationship. And number 1, number 2, they have the security there for those schools. We have a couple DARE deputies, 1 full-time. That's all she does. And then we have a couple other that are actually working in their schools individually. And that program's changed. A couple of people I know have expressed that DARE doesn't work, but it does work. And the program did change with the times, like we're doing right now. Things need to change, things need to evolve, and that program did do that. We have 8 security services deputies. Now, these deputies are assigned to our county buildings and our courts. So we have a program that we work with OCA, Office of Court Administration, where deputies are assigned there, and we actually get reimbursed by them. So in the county court, you would see the deputy sheriffs there. Any of the county buildings that you go into, 325, DSS, 610, any of those buildings, DMV, you'll see a deputy in there. Again, deputy to help people. They're there as security, but also how many times have I gotten a phone call from somebody for the deputy over at DSS, just helping them with a little bit of paperwork, or the big ones over at DMV, and a deputy sitting down and actually trying to help somebody with that. So just, again, working with the people and helping the people. And we have 4 command staff. Command staff are sheriff, captain, lieutenant, etc. So how did we get here to this point tonight, and how have we come along? We've had 3 community panel meetings on October 20th, November 5th, and November 13th. And they were great meetings. Some people had some really good ideas and some good comments. And I thank everybody for taking time out of their evening to come and talk about this, because this is what we need. We need to have the public come in and letting us know what they think, good and bad. We may agree to disagree on some stuff, but it's nice to have a different opinion of what the public thinks about policing and how they think we're doing. It was very good to see that. And again, I can't thank enough people who came out and took time out of their day. to sit there and meet with us. What did the panelists talk about? And so these are different things that the panelists sent in information. We spoke about it during the meetings and notes were taken, so on and so forth. And so a few of the key topics and what people were talking about is number one, accreditation. And we'll get into all these different things as I go along, but just more or less bullet points right now. Accreditation program, again, it's New York State accreditation. Training. What kind of training do we do here at the sheriff's office? How much training do we have? Do deputies get trained just out of the academy and then they're thrown on the street? Or do they have additional training after that? So there were, again, very good questions to ask because people don't know. People don't know, and this is the way we can get this information out. Overtime. Several people had, well, why is there overtime at the sheriff's office? Or why is there so much? And I'll get into that and show the different things as far as contractual obligations. And a lot of the overtime, like the OCA overtime, we'll say for court administration down at the court, is reimbursed. Actually, OCA is totally reimbursed. Every single hour down there at the court is done. That's because of the good job the deputies are doing down there, and the judges really like them. We'll get into some arrest statistics as far as our arrests, what DCJS has to say, because if you look at the DCJS website, it's not just, and I'll get into this, it's not just the sheriff's office. It's every police agency here in Columbia County. But I'll get into our arrest, and it's only fingerprintable offenses through DCJS, where I'll actually show you what arrests we've had from the inception of our SJS system, about 22 years, but I'll get to that. Relationship with the community and humanizing the badge. There was one young lady that got on there, and again, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry about this, but she was talking about that, and let's see more as far as just the police officer out there. Go above and beyond. What else happens? What else do you do? And we'll get into this once we get through. Diversity here at the sheriff's office. Militarization of police. We'll talk about that. Mental health incidents. There's a lot of times that we have to go deal with mental health incidents. Some are dangerous, some aren't. Some people are cooperative, some aren't. Well, we'll talk about that. Search warrants and our SWAT team, our shared services response team that we have. Civilian complaints. Cultural sensitivity. Okay, so we're going to jump right into accreditation. So back, oh my goodness, I was a captain several years ago now, so it's probably at least 10 years. Excuse me. Sheriff Harrison came and wanted to get our very first agent division accredited. And I was tasked with that task to have the law enforcement division accredited through New York State DCJS. So it was a pretty rigorous thing to do. A lot of work, but it's really worthwhile. And we'll talk about that right now. But law enforcement was our first agency to become accredited here. And for the people out there that don't know it, there's 5 different divisions here within the sheriff's office. It's not just the deputies that you see on the streets. You have the law enforcement division, which is accredited. You have the corrections division, and that's all the guys and girls that work over inside the correction facility. They were the second unit to become accredited. You have the civil division, which is also accredited now. That came under my watch. Corrections and law enforcement was under Sheriff Harrison. And when I became the sheriff, I felt that it was important to continue what Sheriff Harrison had started. And so I had civil go right in and start getting that process done. And that's done through the New York State Sheriff's Association. Security services. We were able to get the security services accreditation done just a couple of years ago. And that's 4 out of the 5, because the last one would be emergency management, and there is no accreditation for emergency management. But accreditation shows a lot of different things, and the professionalism of the agency. Currently, there's only 160 law enforcement agencies out of 514 in New York State that are accredited. It's 31% of the police departments are an accredited agency. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a tough thing, but it's absolutely worthwhile. It shows the people of your community how invested you are with doing your job and doing the best job you can for the area in which you protect. As you can see here, accreditation is a progressive and contemporary way of helping police agencies evaluate and improve their overall performance. It provides a formal and recognition. You guys can read this. I'm not going to get into a whole reading. But basically what I want to get across is appropriate training of law enforcement personnel. Accreditation shows and says, and in order to pass accreditation, you have to have a minimal amount of training for every single police officer in your agency. That's one of the standards. And it's also to promote public confidence in law enforcement. It helps with frivolous lawsuits. And again, going back to seeing that there's only so many agencies, 31% of the agencies that are accredited, it's really a feather in the cap of any agency that has this accreditation, and it's been done. Now, we've done it more than just once. We're through our third cycle now on law enforcement, our second cycle, and that's, I believe, coming up third now for and there's a panel of people that come to your agency. It's usually 3, and they'll sit down and they will critique every single policy you have. They will interview people, interview police officers, interview command staff, interview civilian staff to make sure that you're doing this. So this isn't just a swipe of a pen saying, yeah, you're accredited. I can't stress it enough. There were many nights that I really stressed out over this because, again, it's not an easy task. Again, accreditation, there's a lot here, but I'm basically going to get into the standards, the different standards. There's 101 or 110 different standards. 51 administrative, 12 training, and 47 operational. So these are all the standards that your policies and procedures have to stand up to. And there's been times where I've helped out with accreditations. I've done mock accreditations. Matter of fact, it was a while ago now, but my last mock accreditation was down in City of Hudson for the City of Hudson Police Department. And so they go through your standards. They make sure, well, they go through your policies and procedures. They make sure your policies and procedures go along with the standards that the state has put out. I've also actually requested to be on this panel for the state. We became accredited in 2007. And again, every 5 years since then, that's law enforcement. And accreditation requires our agency to continuously review our policies, procedures to ensure that we are compliant with all the laws, mandates, and directives. We also base policies and best practices and model policies derived from the New York State Municipal Training Council, that's MPTC, and others. Excuse me. So training. In 2019, members of our agency completed in excess of 7,000 hours of training. Now, I've had some people say, there's only so many officers. How are you pulling 7,000 hours of training out of your hat? There's a minimum amount of training that New York State accreditation asks for. It's 21 hours. So that's after they come out of the academy. If you're an accredited agency, you have to have 21 hours of training per year. That's it. We go above and beyond that. Now, how do we get to 7,000 hours of training? special ops teams, people with specialized training as far as ID techs, again, SWAT guys, divers, etc. So that's how we get up to there. To date this year, our members have completed in excess of 4,700 hours of training. Okay, Sheriff, why are you down? Well, COVID, that's why we're down. They're still getting their minimum training that they need. But some of the special ops teams, you would have to watch out as far as, I don't need to tell anybody, we're in the middle of a pandemic here, and we have to be extremely careful what we're doing. My men and women have been on the front lines of this since day one. And it's serious. It's out there, and you have to watch absolutely what you're doing. So this is why our hours are down this year. We've done a lot with online training now, just trying to still pump out the training so the officers have it. We actually, I believe it was last year, a year before, ended up purchasing a program called Power DMS. And that Power DMS, we're able to punch out quite a lot of information. We're able to do online training, but it's not just an online training where you sit there and you can put the TV show on and just go through it. It's interactive, and the police officers have to go along with it, or else they won't get through that training. Again, different types of training that we do. We have our annual in-service training that's mandatory for every member. This consists of a variety of topics, including firearms, use of force, legal updates. And the legal updates, we usually have I know we have the district attorney's office on here tonight. We had the district attorney's office come over and help us with that. Workplace violence and bullying. New York State Sheriff's Association comes down and assists us with different things. Sexual harassment and other OSHA required training. Other training that we've made mandatory for every single member. Remember, accreditation asks for 21 hours. That's it. So those first couple of bullet points that you saw on the last slide could pretty much take up those 21 hours. We've implemented anti-bias policing, part 1 and 2. De-escalation and communication, part 1 and 2. Ethics in the workplace and ethical decision-making. Law enforcement ethics, mental health overview, and awareness and response for law enforcement to different types of situations. Uncovering implicit bias. Workplace bullying, violence and prevention. We have one thing I'm very proud of here at the Sheriff's Office. We have a lot of instructors, because if I need to instruct here or assist with other agencies, whether it's our part-time agencies, full-time agencies, our surrounding counties, it's important that we have the proper people trained. We have a lot of in-house instructors, principal in policing, formerly known as procedural justice, to instruct our members. This is now a mandatory course that people have to take in the police academy for all police officers. They need to receive this training. Members receive additional training from a variety of other sources, including many webinars and interactive training videos throughout the year. Just a couple different training slides here. These are all training situations. The deputy sheriffs on the photo on the left are up on the range, working with their sidearms. The one in the middle is our divers. Our divers are cross-trained in several different categories, as well as being divers for regular water. They're ice rescue divers, they're swiftwater rescue people, and they're also ice rescue people. The photo on the right, that's our total station, one of our total station crews that go out. They can map out crime scenes or map out accident scenes. Again, some more training slides of our canines right there doing drug detection work. In the center is our shared services response team training. They have a set amount of training that they have to do every single month per the state of New York. And there's no timeouts when it comes down to something real serious. And so these men and women work very hard. And just somebody doing evidence training, one of our evidence techs lifting a print off of a piece of glass. We have a rope rescue team. We never had that here in the county. We have that here now. We would have to go outside the county in any type of a low angle or a high angle situation. One of the biggest ones I can think of was we had an issue at Bash Bish Falls, and we had to call in Berkshire County Search and Rescue as well as Pittsfield Fire. So we've been working with the Rangers on this, and it's a great team to have. They're also cross-trained in wildland search and rescue. Our Marine Patrol, we have several different boats. They're out training right there on the Hudson River. We work real close with the Coast Guard on several different task forces, and just making sure people are safe on the water. The photo on the right, it's one of our SUAV, our small unmanned aerial vehicle operators, our pilots, and that's the heads-up display that they would see. Photo on the left, again, one of our SUAV pilots flying, and that's just from the aircraft looking down. The next two photographs are all-terrain vehicle instructors out instructing deputy sheriffs as well as fire companies that have these different types of UTVs and ATVs, because we live in a rural county and a lot of these people need to have the proper training. So shoot into the overtime issue now. So overtime, there's been a lot of people saying, well, people make so much money, blah, blah, blah. And I'd like to explain some of that because a lot of it's contractual. A lot of it is reimbursed. There are many causes for overtime, some being low staffing levels, but the majority come from voluntary or reimbursed overtime. Columbia County encompasses roughly 648 square miles and has a population of 63,000, and that's the 2010 census. There is patrolled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year by our road patrol. Now, these are our shifts that we get into. Our road patrol consists of 3 shifts: an A line, which is 11 to 7, a B line, which is 7 to 3, and a C line, which is 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. The current collective bargaining agreement requires a certain minimum amount of staffing on each of these shifts. Now, think back to when I was talking earlier about the staffing of the people that are actually on the road. We're talking 365 days a year, 3 shifts that we're covering. We're 21 people that cover that. We aren't talking a large amount of deputy sheriffs that are out there running around. The A line, or the midnight shift, 11P to 7A, requires 2 patrol cars. So there's 2 deputies in each car. That's contractual. They have to have 2 people in each car to cover your entire county. Remember back how big the county is. It's over 600 square miles. We have 2 cars covering 600 square miles, which is 300 square miles per car. The B line, days required 1 patrol car to cover the entire county. On the weekends, 2 patrol cars, and that's 1 deputy in each car, or a holiday. Your C line, or your 3 to 11 shift, which is our busier shift, requires 3 patrol cars, 1 deputy in each car. And, we're running, I don't have SJS numbers in front of me, but I want to say SJS was like 14,000. CAD, which is computer-aided dispatch, which adds a whole bunch of other things into the mix. It may be residence checks, or it may be traffic tickets, or so on and so forth. They're up into 30,000s. So this is calls for service and work that deputy sheriffs are actually doing. These minimum staffing levels are low. If you're waiting for a police car on the day shift and there's 1 cop on and they're coming from Germantown going to New Lebanon, think of the response time. I had to do it once. I had lights and siren, code 3 as people say, and I had to go from Hillsdale to New Lebanon when I was a young deputy for a stabbing. And it took me 25 minutes to get up there for a serious call. So it's a big county, but the boys and girls do the best they can. Anytime minimum staffing levels are not met, overtime must be used to fill that staffing. So you can see there's not a lot of gravy here that we're talking about. You're talking 2 cars with 2 people in it, 1 car, or on a holiday and weekends, 2 cars, and 3 cars on a 3 to 11 shift. It's not like we're stacking cars or we have a whole bunch of cars out there and then filling that with overtime. That's not happening. When a shift falls below minimum staffing, overtime is required to fill a vacancy. Some of the common reasons to do this are everybody says, we need training. We went into some of the training. Training costs money. One of the ladies actually said that. Well, we want training, but in the panels, but it costs money. If the people are in training, it shorts the shift because, as you can see, there's not a whole heck of a lot of people that are working here. So when we have those trainings, then we have to backfill those shifts to make sure we have the appropriate coverage out there if somebody calls for help. When somebody takes leave, whether it's a sick day, vacation day, personal time, that can short the shift. And so it has to be filled. We have contracts that require the parties asking for police services to fully reimburse the sheriff's office for overtime that's paid. So these would be movie sets. There we go. I'm going to have to go back here because I didn't put it in there. These would be like movie sets people would call. These would be businesses that would call and say, we need people because we're going to have a whole bunch of people here and it may be a traffic hazard. So getting into some of it here, Enhanced Enforcement Patrol. Municipalities regularly contract with us to have deputies on patrol for their town or village. It's called Enhanced Enforcement Patrol. And so basically we have several gentlemen on tonight from some of the part-time agencies, but a lot of the towns don't have the luxury of having a police department. And it's nice having that. It's nice having that interaction with the local cops. If they don't, they contract with us. They contract it for a couple of reasons. Number one, if they need traffic safety in their town, they're having problems. They want a police officer on Friday nights driving around because it makes their town a little bit safer. So they sign a contract with the county, and that deputy's salary, who is on overtime, but it's 100% fully reimbursed, as well as benefits also. We do town, village, court securities. The majority of the towns and the villages have police officers on duty during court night. I think there's 3 left that don't have deputy sheriffs on court nights, and I believe they're going to be going to them. Again, overtime details, 100% reimbursed by the town. Why do towns do it? Somebody's going to say that. Why would they contract with you? Why didn't they just go get somebody else? Because when you get a deputy sheriff, you're getting, and this is absolutely not knocking anybody. You're getting somebody that's trained. The liability is on the county, but the person's being overseen by the sheriff, and they're receiving the proper training every single year. So that's why people do it. And I started to get into the private contracts. We've done a lot of movie productions where they need security because of traffic and so on and so forth. Large private events. Some of the ones I can think of back in the day, like Falcon Ridge, and big music events where they want deputy sheriffs on site. A couple reasons. Number one, for security. Number two, the one had to cross Route 22 quite a bit, and they didn't want anybody to get hit by a car. I've had quite a lot of inquiries this year about a local fruit stand, very large one, where there's been a deputy sitting on the weekends. And a couple of people have asked, these my tax dollars that work there. Well, that person has been paying for that deputy sheriff to sit there the entire weekend because it's cheaper for them to pay for a deputy than it is to have an accident out in front and shut down their business. So nobody's getting any added benefits or just a favor. These people are paying for these services. And again, security and traffic control at different events. Overtime, the sheriff's office receives grant funding from a number of sources that provide overtime pay for the deputy sheriffs to voluntarily work additional patrols or details for specific law enforcement purposes. So these grants are, now we have to file for these grants. They just don't give them to us. We have people here that'll write the grants, send it up to the state, and then we see if we get it. First one is our PTS grant, our Police Traffic Safety or Police Traffic Services grant. And this targeted aggressive drivers, cell phone using, texting, and seatbelt enforcement. Also, they target speeding too. If you look back, and it's actually an interesting thing that's going on. Fatal accidents were quite high here in the county before these grants came into service. Since these grants have come in, since the distracted driving, since the speeding have come in, fatal car accidents have gone down. Interesting now, with the onset of COVID, fatal car accidents have started to go up in the region. Whether it's because of people not stopping cars, I don't know, but this PTS grant is a very important grant. And it's interesting because when it came down, the lady who oversees our grant, we get a decent amount of money from that. And she says, because the deputy sheriffs do such a great job, number one. Number two, the documentation, and this shows the professionalism of the guys and girls working here. The documentation given to the state showing what we have done. She was very impressed. Stop DWI funding, and I know I have our Stop DWI coordinator, Reggie Crowley, on right now. I believe he's the state president. So thank you, Reggie, for what you do. But it targets intoxicated and impaired drivers. We have crackdown periods that we do. We actually just had one last week, Thanksgiving, because everybody knows the night before Thanksgiving is a pretty big drinking day. With COVID, hopefully people stayed home and used a little common sense. But we do participate in these crackdown periods. And unfortunately, we are still getting people driving under the influence of either alcohol or impaired of some type of a drug. Marine Patrol. There aren't a heck of a lot of cops out there on our waterways. And the Marine Patrol and funding for the deputy sheriffs to be out there patrol our waters is crucial. Do we get 100%? No, it was cut back because of budget cuts. But as a person that did work that patrol quite a bit, it's number one, the seeing the deputies out on the water interacting. It's a great interaction. But number two, when you're out there on a Marine Patrol and you're able to help somebody, whether it's a rescue or somebody doesn't have a life preserver, they don't have a PFD, as we call it. We're able to give them, because we work with the state, we're able to give them loaners so they're safe. So the Marine Patrol is a real good asset here. And there's not a lot of police agencies that do this. Again, sticking with overtime, calls for police services are also a substantial amount of overtime. So basically, we just can't call time out when we're on a scene. If we're on some type of a major crime scene, it's not, okay, we're going to shut it down and we're going to leave, and we're going to come back in the morning. We have to stay there. Several scenes I can recall through my career. Overnighters. I'm one of the old timers here that remember the October snowstorm. And all kidding aside, I worked pretty much 3 days straight working out of a command unit. So we don't stop. We're still here. And that's where more overtime may come into play. Overtime is simply unavoidable. Hiring additional staff may not reduce the expenditure, since extra staff includes the yearly salaries and fringe benefits to go along with that salary. Deputies volunteer for the majority of this overtime, and mandating people to work is rare. Some deputies volunteer for more overtime than others, which creates a wide disparity on annual salaries. Overtime is always filled, whether by a deputy takes it or a deputy. It's always filled by a deputy either who always takes it a lot or a deputy that takes it very little. Contractually, there's different contractual obligations here. So that's why you may see more people take more overtime than other people. It's It's just part of the union contract. Okay, so getting out of that, we're going to go into arrest and demographics. We do not do any hotspot policing, which targets minorities in certain groups. We do not profile certain ethnic or racial groups to deter crime. We arrest people for the offenses that they commit and not for their racial or ethnic background. So now these are the stats I spoke about earlier. This is the one that goes back 22 years. In January 1st of 1998, our SJS system came into play where it's keeping all of our records computerized. And so if you look down here, over those 22 years, you've had 18,619 arrests. 79% of those are white males, 14% are black males, others are not reported, or 5.6%. This includes everything. This includes your violations, which are non-fingerprintable offenses, as well as misdemeanors and felonies, which are fingerprintable offenses. So what does that mean? All right, why'd you say that, David? Because now when I go to the next slide, and it may be a little hard to see, but this is, these are incident-based reporting from DCJS in a uniform crime report. And this is from 2019. You'll see the numbers are a little different because they aren't taking in those, number one, they aren't taking in the violations because it's a non-fingerprintable offense, a violation. Number two, these are all of the agencies in Columbia County. So whether it's one of the part-time police agencies, City of Hudson, state police, this is everybody here in Columbia County. So if you're looking at, or you're researching and you're going on the DCJS website, and what did Columbia County do here? Oh, geez, you know, this is this. Just take that into consideration, that these are only fingerprintable offenses and they aren't taking into consideration those smaller offenses. Relationships with the community. So these are different programs that we have, and I'm going to get into them briefly because I know people have other things to do on a nice Wednesday night here. So the resident deputy program. Resident deputy program, again, was developed back a few years ago. Great program, more or less a community policing. Need to get some more bodies in there, but once I get some bodies back on the streets. They live and work. They live in the area where they work. So again, everybody knows your name. Everybody knows that cop. School resource deputies. Brought this program back. It was run by the state for a while here in Columbia County. For whatever reason, I really, budgets, I guess, I don't know. It was stopped. And so when I became the sheriff, one of the very first things I did was get our resident or school resource deputies back into the schools. We started out slow, and I'm extremely proud to say today that every single school, including Columbia Green Community College, has a deputy sheriff assigned to them. Great resource, great partnership, and working together basically as a family. It's a great thing. We haven't even announced it yet, but we received a large donation of toys today that we're going to be working with our school resource deputies and going to be working with our schools to get them out to families that could use it. And so I was pretty excited when those two large pallets came in today. It's going to be awesome for some of the kids. Again, we still have we have one full-time DARE deputy. She does an awesome job. The kids just absolutely love Wendy. But we have a couple other deputies that are now trained in DARE. I just want to make sure that we always have this program. It's near and dear to my heart. My kids have gone through it. I would like to see it. I want to expand it. I would like to see it in the older grades, because when you do DARE in 5th grade, it's okay. It teaches the kids, but you really got to reach out to them is when they get up into that high school. And there are programs where we can get into the high school, and we have started to implement that and talk to these kids when they're in the high schools to maybe reach out to them if they have any problems. But again, here we are talking. They know everybody's name. They know their face. Working together. It's awesome. Senior safety checks and senior safety net. So senior safety net, we partner with the Office for the Aging. It's where somebody will receive a phone call every day to make sure they're okay. It's an automated call. You can get this program by calling OFA, and they will set you up. And then it's good. Senior safety checks. I started when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I wanted deputy sheriffs to be able to go out and speak with some of our people that are home alone. And they stop by every single day. They say hi. I had I was very fortunate to be able to cover a few of those through the past few months. And it's pretty nice to sit there and just say hello to somebody when they need it. CRACE training. CRACE is civilian response to active shooter. And so this training we've been doing, I don't know how many, I couldn't even tell you right now how many people we have trained through CRACE training. And if you need CRACE training, please let us know. Call us. We'd be more than glad to come. We've been out to churches, businesses. It's free. We'll just come out and do it. I have several instructors. Stop the Bleed. Stop the Bleed is a program. It's pretty simple. I'm an instructor in it. Retired investigator Brame is one of my main guys that does this. But we teach you basically how to stop bleeding. About 30 minutes of your time where you can save somebody's life. I was proud to take drug asset seizure money, and that's money that we've taken from drug dealers legally, assigned, by the judges and so on and so forth. They ship it back to the different agencies, and use stop drug asset seizure money to buy Stop the Bleed kits. And the Stop the Bleed kits have smaller, it's a large kit. They have smaller kits in there, which contain pressure bandages. They contain tourniquets, etc. So every single school, every single building, actually, now have a Stop the Bleed kit in each building in the event of some type of emergency. And, oh, geez, David, are we going to ever have something where it's really bad in the school where you got to have these? No, it's more than just that. Think outside the box. What if somebody was in shop class and they had a bad injury? Or an automobile accident or whatever. It's more than just some type of a shooter incident. It's just overall being out there helping. Drug court, we have people from law enforcement and corrections assigned to drug court, and very proud to have that on there with Judge Nichols. And I've been very fortunate to sit down there a couple times and see the positive stuff that happens there, and the people that have graduated and gone on and had a great life. And it's awesome to see that. And it's very nice to be a part of that. Child ID cards. We do child ID cards. That information, if you want, is also shipped into the database for New York State. If you don't want, you don't have to. You just have a card with your child's information on it in case something was to ever happen to them or they went lost or missing. Senior ID cards. I started this back a while ago. And it was in conjunction with Senator Jordan's event at the college. And we do senior ID cards for the seniors. Again, basically do they get anything for it? No, but it's basically having another form of ID and being able to have that on them. Trunk or treat. This is one that we started a year or two ago. And the deputy sheriffs actually go out on Halloween night and they do a trunk or treat where we're able to get candy. They'll go in a high volume area and the kids will come up and get candy from them. Car seat installations and car seat checks. We get a grant for this and they're able to go out and do car seats. We check your seats to make sure they're properly installed. And we also have, as far as the checks, where we'll do big ones, and we get free car seats too from the state. So if anybody ever needs a decent seat and they qualify for it, please get a hold of us, let us know. Or I don't know if my seat's put in right. We'll have a technician take a look at it and make sure it is put in right. County fair. It's always great to see everybody at the fair. I go to it every year. I've loved seeing the fair every year. And some people are like, David, you're crazy. But I eat the fair up. I love Zeppelis. So the Golden Gathering, we work with the senator on this and Senator Jordan, and prior to that, Senator Marchione. And we're down there with our deputy sheriffs, again, doing senior the ID cards. as well as helping out with other different things. Project Lifesaver, near and dear to my heart. Project Lifesaver is a international, it's a national, well, it is international program based out of Virginia, and it's for people that have a tendency to wander. So you would talk about traumatic brain injury, you would talk about Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, anybody that may have a tendency to wander. This program has 100% success rate of locating the individuals. And we've had several right here in the county, recently within the past month and a half. If you have somebody, and anybody listening, if you have somebody that has a tendency to wander, you're a little worried about them, please call us. And we will put you in touch with our people. I think we're over 50 clients now. I've seen it work. I've been out on search crews, and it's quite a great program. Different community events we do, COVID test sites. We've been helping with the health department, and we all know our health officials have been flat out with COVID, and a great group of men and women working. You know, Jack Mabs really needs a pat on the back with all the nurses and whatnot down there. But we go out on all those COVID test sites. You'll see our command unit out there and assisting the nurses with that. We do a lot of canine demos as an old canine officer. It was really neat to see the kids come out, pet the dogs, because these are working dogs, but we get dogs with temperaments where we can go out and do that. Drug take back events. We don't want to flush our drugs down the toilets anymore. And these are drugs that we would have from our doctor. It affects our waterways, it affects the fish, and it affects our wildlife. So we want to give those back for drug take back events. We actually have 2 drug drop boxes, one in Hillsdale Station and one in our main station. You can always drop our drugs off if you need to. Relationships with the community. Okay. Additionally, we work with the community services and providers on a regular basis. We have many programs and collaborative events and efforts such as the New Leash on Life program. That's where we work with the Columbia Green Humane Society, and inmates will actually get a dog if they qualify, and they'll work with that dog, and they'll work with people from the Humane Society, general obedience, etc. And that dog is at that point, once they get done with that, they put it out for adoption. It's interesting. I got a call from a guy, and he moved out to Arizona, and he says, you know something, David, I got to tell you something. That New Leash on Life program saved my life. And I said, what do you mean? And he says, it gave me a purpose. And he's clean. He's leading a great life, has a great family. Children of incarcerated parents, my buddy Joni. This is a program that we put into effect a few years ago. So many times the kids don't get to see their parents when they're in jail, and you lose that family bonding. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Whether somebody committed a crime or not, you still have to have the family. So with that being said, we hooked up with the Greater Hudson Promise neighborhood and Joni Hunt, and children of incarcerated parents came around, and these kids get to go in and see their parents. They get to play with their parents. They get to sit down and they can read a book, and it's really, really, really gratifying. I mean, it's just an awesome program, and we wouldn't be able to do this unless we were working with other agencies. I couldn't do this without Joni's help. So it's real good. Naloxone, or our Narcan program, I'm proud to say that we were the first agency to go full time with Narcan. We've had several saves. I can't even say several. We've had multiple. Myself, I've had 3. People have addiction problems. We work with Beth Schuster quite a bit on different things, and to get out there and to help somebody, and then to forward them to the appropriate agency so they can change their life and help them. Everybody probably knows somebody that's overdosed. Everybody probably knows somebody that's possibly died. So it was really important to get this Narcan program out there. We have instructors on it, and we teach other people now. Vivitrol in the jail. Real proud again to have that going. Once the inmate is authorized, qualified, whatever word I'm looking for here, to be on the Vivitrol program, we work with Twin County. We work a greener pathway. And when the inmate is released from jail and they've got their Vivitrol shot, then they're turned over to those people for hopefully more counseling, et cetera. And I don't want to see them back in jail. They're in jail because of an addiction. So I would rather break that addiction. And I don't want to see them back. I tell them when they're getting on this program, I've spoken to several of them. And I said, I want to see you on the streets. I want to see you clean. I want you to come up and say, hey, Bartlett, what's up? And I appreciate your help. We work with MCAT, Mobile Crisis Assessment Team. They'll call us. We'll call them if there's an issue. And we assist each other a lot. I mean, they're a great team, a great group of people that are out there. And I can't say enough for the good that they do. Twin County, my people down there, and again, Beth, it's a great group of people that we work with. And we keep going back to a team thing that we're doing. I can't do this myself. We have to all work together. And that's what's important. Greener Pathway, Carl. And I've actually had Greener Pathway in here for different types of trainings. Columbia County Mental Health, we work very close with Dan and his people. Reentry programs over in the jail. Anger management, these are different things. What actually goes into the corrections thing a little bit. Parenting classes. Financial education classes. These are all different things we do with the inmates. So when they get out, they're able to go forward. Trade training. We were one of the first ones around to actually have some trade training. Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotic Anonymous. Okay, so that's different things we do with the community. Here are photographs. We had our trunk or treat. This is with the City of Hudson Police Department down in the city. Deputy Zahotra is on the right there. And again, different other areas for trunk or treat that we had. Relationships with the community. Photo on the left is a prayer service that we had with all of our interfaith ministers. And it was awesome. We wonderful prayer session out in front of the office when COVID started. And we prayed for everybody's safety. And I just can't thank the men and women of the clergy that we have and our emergency management personnel and actually Director Harrison putting that together. Our sheriff's camp, that's a center picture as far as we send kids to the sheriff's camp, New York State Sheriff's Association camp out in Penn Yan. And there's several kids every single year that would normally not be able to go to a camp are able to now because of this program. Top right picture, that's our new mobile command unit. And this has been going out quite a bit. Thank goodness not for crimes, but for COVID events. And the nurses are able to utilize that for, and us, for a mobile command unit. You can do everything on there. You can do the same in your office you can do on that bus. And we received that actually through a grant through Senator Jordan. Didn't cost taxpayers a dime here in Columbia County. It'll be here long after I will be. Parades and whatnot that we go to and march in, deputy sheriffs marching into Chatham Fair, or whether it's Memorial Day parades. It's really great to be out there and working with the community. Here's a program that I think we started this year or last year. I worked with the Columbia County Deputy Sheriff's Benevolent Association. And so the two photographs on the left, kids got stopped by police officers if they were wearing a helmet. And they got a ticket. They got a ticket for a free ice cream. And so the union and myself purchased ice cream tickets through Stewart's. And 1,500 tickets we purchased. And they were distributed amongst the deputy sheriffs. And if we saw a child wearing a helmet out on the street, we would give them a ticket. And it's a great program. We're going to continue to do that. But it won't be till next summer. The photo on the right, this is not this year. I want to stress that. But that's our No Shave November. And so if you see deputies running around a little scruffy in November and December, it's because we work with the Columbia County Healthcare Consortium and we raise money for them. It's their biggest fundraiser that they have every single year. This money is then distributed out to people with a cancer diagnosis or a family. And it may be a gas card. It may be something as simple as that. But if you're trying to get back and forth to treatment, that it may be simple to us, but it may not be simple to that person. So it's a great program we do. I've been doing it for years. Actually just shaved mine the other day because it was getting too darn itchy. I couldn't stand it anymore. And we'll be coming out with a total actually in the next day or so, because it is past November. Other relationships, connecting with the community. We have a comprehensive website, www.columbiacountysheriff.us. You can visit us on Facebook. You can get Columbia County Sheriff's Office site as well as emergency management. Our Nextdoor app, as far as, excuse me, neighbor next door that we have, and we'll pump information out if we have some type of a situation going on in the neighborhood. And our Ring app community, as far as the Ring doorbell or Ring cameras. So if we have to try to extract information if we had a crime. Diversity at the Sheriff's Office. To become a full-time member in the Columbia County Sheriff's Office, prospective candidates must complete the following steps. Number one, you have to take a civil service examination. We have nothing to do with that. It's an independent run exam by Columbia County Civil Service. It's a great group of ladies down there. And the top 3 applicants then are capable of becoming deputies as they move through the list. You have to score, unfortunately, you have to score high enough on the list in order to be reached. I have zero control over this list. Once a candidate is accepted, so I take little Susie Smith, and she's accepted through civil service, and I say, okay, you want to become a deputy sheriff. It's pretty rigorous what they go through at that point in time. Comprehensive background investigation is done on them, either by one of the background investigators or a criminal investigator. This includes, but it's not limited to, fingerprints, criminal history checks, reference checks, credit checks, psychological examination, and a polygraph exam. Background investigators all look at the moral character of the prospective candidate and verify their honesty during this application and interview phase. Candidates must also complete and successfully graduate from a rigorous police academy. And we use Zone 14, either here, which we oversee at Columbia Green Community College, or down at Dutchess County. We work very close with the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office and their academy. To help recruit a diverse workforce, the Sheriff's Office, we try to reach out to all members in the community through Facebook or social media posts, Sheriff's Office website, the Columbia County website, and all those exams. If anybody's interested in becoming a deputy sheriff, they can go to the Columbia County Civil Service site, which is on the county site, and the exams are posted there. Job fairs we've been through, career days at schools. I've been to numerous career days. It's always awesome to sit and talk with the kids and get their ideas on what they want to do in life. Public events such as the Columbia County Fair. There's many public events we go to, but at the fair, people will come up to our either display booth or our patrol booth, or they'll actually talk to us in the crowd, and they'll ask us questions as far as, how can I become a deputy? I'd like to become a deputy. Internships at the Sheriff's Office. We've had internships from several colleges and actually schools, high schools have come here. Some get the ride, some get to sit in communications, but it's really kind of interesting to see some of the interns, all of a sudden they're a deputy sheriff a few years later. That's pretty cool. Sheriff's Office Explorer Post program. And we collaborate with Operation Unite in the past, down in the city of Hudson. And just some photos of different diversity within the Sheriff's Office. For those of you who haven't seen it, that's our new sheriff's cars that we have put out there with Deputy McSween there on the right. We changed up the color scheme a little bit. A lot of people have talked about the militarization of police. In the United States, there's a program called the 1033 program, which transfers excess military equipment to civilian law enforcement agencies. The program legally requires the Department of Defense to make various items and equipment available to law enforcement. We do not participate in this program. We don't use any military equipment in the normal course of business. Mental health. Every member of the sheriff's office has received some mental health training. All members complete the training, mental health overview, awareness, and response for law enforcement. Sheriff's office also has 2 certified instructors to teach mental health training to all police officers. In addition, their initial certification as instructors, they also are required mental health instructor update training on an annual basis. Sheriff's office works with the Mental Health Association of Columbia County and Greene, that's the MCAT. And we work to make sure that these individuals in crisis receive appropriate mental health treatment. If we're able to get MCAT there, we can. Could be somebody in crisis, could be somebody that's had something tragic just happen to them or in their family. I can think of a couple cases where I've called MCAT. Great group of people. I cannot stress that enough. What a great job they do, and what an assistant, a credit to our community. We also work close with our partners at Columbia County Mental Health, Greener Pathway. Carl Quinn, the executive director, Greener Pathway, has actually come here and conducted training sessions with every law enforcement member this past year. He's provided them with information about vital services and what we do with the county. What we've also done now too is if we go to an overdose, we actually leave information at the residence where a person can get some help, where a person can call. Or if we're there and they can talk to them right now, yeah, I want to talk to somebody now. We'll try and get a hold of somebody from Greener Pathway. Twin County, they're huge partners too. Deputies also receive mandatory training in de-escalation techniques and tactics to help them deal with mental health emergencies. I always tell the deputies, one of your best tools that you have is right in front of your face, and that's talking to somebody. Because you talk to somebody and you get a rapport going with them, that goes a long way. Our corrections facility also works with various providers to make sure that incarcerated individuals receive appropriate mental health care while confined to the Columbia County Corrections Facility or Columbia County Jail. Work very close with Columbia County Mental Health. Dan's people over there are just awesome and they do a great job. The SWAT teams and no-knock warrants. So every single time we utilize our Shared Services Response Team, SSRT, or our SWAT team, the nature of the incident will dictate whether or not we use them. It also dictates the level of how we use them on that scene that day. One of the panels, it came up and somebody had asked the question, and we always do a threat assessment. Before any search warrant's done, before any mission goes on, there's always a threat assessment done. Assessment takes into consideration the nature of the incident, the suspect involved, and their history. Other factors could come into play of weapons, access to weapons, prior contact with any parties. If there are children present, yes, we take that into consideration. We do not want to scar any kids if we don't have to. I mean, if there's some type of a hostage situation, we can't help that. But we work very close with some of the schools, and we always make sure if there was an incident at a residence that evening, and I can't speak for the other agencies, I can speak for my agency, we contact the school with a critical incident that's happened at a house, and we make sure the school knows the next day. So they can keep an eye on little Johnny or little Louie that are in school, and maybe they're having a hard time all of a sudden. And why are they having a hard time today? Why are they acting out? Well, because this is what happened, and so we forewarn them. A couple photographs. Why do we need no-knock search warrants? People say we don't need them. Well, that could be an agree to disagree topic. Photo on the left is a search warrant that we did, and there's 2 loaded handguns right there on a bed, right next to a window where the SSRT team was coming around. And you can see a couple of the other photographs here. Drugs and guns. It's a dangerous thing out here. If we can arrest somebody without having any danger, we do that. If we can just walk up to the door and knock, we do that. But there are times that we can't do that. because the person may arm themselves. They may be getting rid of the drugs. They may be taking a hostage inside. So the threat assessment is a very big thing that we do. Complaints. Since becoming sheriff, we have had no complaints of misconduct against any members while on duty. 0 complaints. Although uncommon, typical personnel complaints are someone that's unhappy with a ticket. Complaints are unhappy about the outcome of an incident. Complaints about a deputy being rude. To minimize any, and to help with investigations when we do have these, I don't want to say smaller complaints, but they are smaller complaints. We aren't talking about somebody beating somebody up where they shouldn't have done that. We aren't talking about somebody, as we have seen throughout our country, where people have died. We don't have that. That happens here. We aren't talking about larger agencies where several people have referenced where they were constantly messed with by the police. We don't have that here. But when I became sheriff, I implemented the in-car camera video system in every single patrol car. Now, it took us a little bit of time to do this, but now I'm proud to say that every marked patrol car that you see has an in-car camera system, audio and visual. And a lot of times when people call complaints in about a deputy sheriff being rude, or they swore at me, or they said something inappropriate, it's real easy to figure that out. All we got to do is play the tape. And the minute they find out about the tape, they're like, oh, what do you mean I was being taped? And well, yeah, we have this for, number one, your safety, number one, for the deputy safety. Again, use audio-visual has been invaluable a tool when investigating and determining the validity of any complaints made against CCSO personnel. Additionally, right now, I've been working with Chairman Morrell and the Board of Supervisors, because I think it's very, very important, even though we have those in-car camera systems and the deputies have mics on them, that we go to body-worn cameras. My goal is to outfit every uniformed deputy with a body camera to record interactions between deputies and the public, especially when out of sight of that car camera. Again, I can't thank the Board of Supervisors for their assistance with this. It's a very important topic for me, for my agency. Just again, transparency. This is what's going on. We have the cameras. Is anything 100%? No, but I'm hoping next year at this time, I'll have everybody with body cams on. Cultural sensitivity. Sheriff's Office works closely with faith-based organizations, and we also routinely, and this is what people don't know, because we don't sit here and announce it, we interact with members of different cultures. We've worked with the Islamic Community Center in Hudson to provide security at the Islamic Center from time to time. You don't know that. We don't announce it. But we work with those people. We work with the different individuals down there when they have their large gatherings to help them and make sure they're safe. We've worked with different Jewish community, with the Jewish community, and we've also assisted them during Holy Period at the synagogue and other places of worship. We've had incidents, not here, thank goodness, but other places where there's been violence towards people, whether it's a mosque, whether it's a synagogue, whether it's a church. And so they call, they ask, it's very low key. You never know we're there. I personally have sat at the mosque several times. During COVID, deputies reached out to local farmers. And it was important for me to reach out to our migrant community and make sure that our Spanish-speaking community understood what was going on with COVID. Could I reach out to all of it? No, but it was important. So I reached out to all the large farms. I said, please invite everybody and anybody you want. We got a few, and I had one of my deputies that's very fluent in Spanish sit and talk about COVID. And it was very well received, and it was nice to do, because you don't want to leave people behind, and you want to make sure that some people may be afraid to talk to the cops. But it was a great dialogue that we had that evening. Emergency Management Division of the Sheriff's Office has a network of religious leaders from all faith-based organizations to assist with critical events and emergencies. They've been included in our emergency response plan. When you have something going on and something big, you want to have your partner there, whether it's whatever faith you believe in. And I'm very proud and very happy that my Emergency Management Division has done this. To deal with the language barrier, and we've had several emails, I'll say over the past couple of hours, in reference to using Language Line. We use it. So there's an answer to a few of the emails that have been coming in. Yeah, because not everybody speaks English. Let's face it. So we do use Language Line. We have a couple people that are fluent in a couple different languages, but you can't touch them all. So we do use Language Line. We use Google Translate if you get into a pinch in an emergency. I've tried it on the streets a couple times myself, but we do have Language Line as well as the 911 center. The service provides translation, so language barriers are not an issue when handling any calls for service that come into the sheriff's office. And that's what I've got here, people. Let me just get out of this so I can get back to the camera. I appreciate your time. I know I'm a little long-winded, looking at an hour and 20 minutes. Newell's got his 5-minute up. I went way over that, Newell.
Well, thank you, Sheriff. That was what we would call thorough, right? And responded to many of the things we heard on the, if not all. I didn't do a checklist against what we heard in the panels. We still have a little more that we hope to do here tonight. So what I'm going to suggest is a couple of things. One, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and you'll know 5 minutes are up because this thing will go to 0 while I'll leave this on. But I know some of you may have some comments or questions, particularly those of you who are on, listening in. So if you don't know it already, there's a place to contact on the website, www.columbiacountynewyork.com. And there's a site on there called the Columbia County Police Reform Panel. If you go on there, you'll find the link to where you could write in any comments or questions you might have for those, for the panelists that are going to be getting together tomorrow night and future things. So I suggest maybe you have heard anything from the sheriff that you want to write down and comment on. You can also just send it directly, any questions and comments, to prpanel@columbiacountynewyork.com. Okay.
Mayor Johnson had a question. He raised his hand.
I'm sorry, I didn't see a hand raised there.
Oh, are we doing question and answer now? I was just preparing my hand for
No.
when there's a time. I just wanted to.
Mayor, we're going to be doing that tomorrow. Today is just really getting all the input in because there's so much. Okay.
Oh, so I thought this was the time where our panelists are going to be able to ask the sheriff. Maybe I had that incorrect. Other than that, I'm confused on why the rest of us are here.
The reason everybody's here is to prepare for tomorrow. And when we're into the smaller groups, to take all the information we're hearing today to figure out what actions we're going to, both to ask questions, but also to figure out next steps. Because we still have yet to hear from the police chiefs from a couple of the towns, and to hear from the folks from mental health, and from the recovery services folks. That's what we're going to hear after this. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. Okay.
No, and also Chairman Morrell, I would suggest, and I'm saying this now while we're all here, is that this is a lot of information for a lot of people to absorb. I know a lot of it already, but I would suggest that we have another 1 or 2 meetings following the next 2 meetings, where people can now start to respond to some of the information that has been given.
Okay. I hear that suggestion.
And I would like to say that I like the idea of breaking into groups, but there are things that I would like to state publicly and also questions that I have that I would like to discuss with the entire panel as opposed to just the small group that I'll be with tomorrow night. So if we could schedule a follow-up meeting like this where each of us panelists have 5 or 10 minutes to, say something, be heard, ask questions, I would really appreciate that as well.
I agree, because that's what I thought it was. I didn't, we're just up here just for people to look at us.
No, you're,
The,
go ahead.
the idea here is, these were the first 2 meetings. The intent has always been to have more of these meetings because we're not going to accomplish what we need to accomplish. So I think after the small groups tomorrow, there will be an opportunity to ask questions moving forward.
Would it be, hi, this is Beth Schuster. Would it be possible, as it's already almost 7:30, and I think the other police people and Dan and I may feel a bit pressured to ram through things tonight. Would it be possible to have another night like this set up so we could continue this at another time and not feel so pressured? Like another meeting like tonight, except for police chiefs and mental health in Twin County.
That's a recommendation. How do the other police chiefs feel about that? Could we use tomorrow night's meeting for that purpose? And then use the second part of tomorrow's meeting for that? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, that would be fine. It's just a lot for tonight.
Yeah. What other thoughts from those of you that were our next panelists?
This is Dan Almashi, as a presenter. I would be fine with that. I would make myself available.
Hi, it's Jim Delaney. I could go along with that as well.
Okay, so let me recommend this. Let's take 5 minutes for a break, and then why don't we do a little, as the mayor suggested, a little bit of Q&A tonight on what the sheriff already said, and we break this into sections that way.
Okay.
Let's take 5, and then let's come back and we'll do some Q&A. Okay.
Sounds good.
That sounds good. We're good? Okay.
Much better idea.
to ask some questions, would you put your hand up and you know how to use this little hand feature? It's on the bottom. Hit or raise your hand and it should be most of you. It should be a bottom feature. You'll see it on the bottom of your screen. It says raise hand. So I see Mayor Johnson, Abdus, Mia. Let's see who else, and Robert. No, Bill Hughes.
Tistria, Supervisor Holtling.
Okay. Let's start with Mayor Johnson. You need to unmute yourself, I believe. No, you're unmuted. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you, on the fly for kind of changing this around a little bit. I really appreciate it. And thank you to the sheriff for his presentation. I just had a couple of questions and a suggestion. My first question is there an evaluation of how how effective the trainings are? And also, is there an evaluation for officers on if they're using some of the tips in the training on the job?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an evaluation, Kamal. I gotta be honest with you. I've never seen an evaluation of different types of training. I feel that there are trainings that's working out there in the field that we see. Again, you get into our Narcan program, we're saving people. You get into the de-escalation training, we're talking people down. As far as an actual pattern or something that evaluates it, I don't know of any. Do you?
Yeah, there's a lot that can be built in. I know we're going to be working on some for Hudson.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the next, we would love to partner with what the sheriff's office is doing with our own reforms. I know we also have our transitions to treatment committee that I've been, disappointed that you haven't joined, but I would love to see, you be a part of that committee as well, because there is a lot of gaps in mental health treatment and arrest. But my next question is also how are we evaluating how the DARE program is working as well? Because statistically, DARE does not work. And, their curriculum is basically refuse, explain, avoid, and leave. But the reason our young people are choosing to use different substances is to cope and different issues like that. So we have to teach about, the adolescent brain and ways to properly cope when there's issues. And that's basically why for years, no matter how much DARE has evolved, it's never been effective.
Well, I got to disagree with you on that. They did change that a couple of years ago to a reality-based training. And I'm not sure what research you've got or you're referring to. Again, I'd love to sit down with you, Mayor, and look at some of the stuff that you have. But they had to change that curriculum because you're right. It was not working in the old way. But now with the reality-based training that they're doing.
What's the curriculum called that's being used now?
I have to get one of my DARE officers, Kamal. I'm not trained in that.
Yeah, I'd like you guys to take this offline because it's a bigger conversation.
Absolutely. I'd love to sit down with you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. That's all I had. I just had one more suggestion with your presentation. I know this wasn't malicious or anything like that. I get what you were trying to prove, but it just is very uncomfortable when you use diversity photos. It just seems just out of place.
Okay.
Well, it's nothing meant to make somebody uncomfortable or it's not meant to be that, Kamal. You know that.
No, I get it. And that's why I said I would just avoid using it because it seems well, here's Black people and women in this photo. We have them. It just comes off wrong.
And that's what people are complaining about, Kamal, that do you have Black people? Do you have Asian people? Do you have women working here? And that's what people are saying. And so,
yeah, but show us the statistics.
That's why we put on. And I'll look up with you in the next week or so and we can sit down and we can talk about the other stuff. I'll come down and see you or whatever. We'll hook up.
All right, great.
Thanks.
Ab-
man.
Abdus?
Hi. Yes, I have a couple of questions, Sharif. And also I have tomorrow night I'll be talking about a couple of few points. So I have first question is, any police misconduct, citizen oversight can do that?
As far as, you're gonna have to, what do you mean by police misconduct? Everything is investigated that comes in here. It depends on the level of what it is. If it's somebody complaining that they got a traffic ticket, it might be handled on a sergeant level. If it works its way up to something really bad, somebody got beat up inappropriately by a police officer, that would go to internal affairs. We don't have large complaints like that. We don't have where a deputy has done something so outrageous that you would have to do that. And if it did happen, two things would go down. Either internal affairs and CIB, criminal investigation branch, would deal with it, or I would TOT it to the state police. We've turned over calls to the state police before. We've also tried to turn over calls to the state police before, and they've turned me down, but they've given me assistance with the call.
Okay, another question. Are you do any annually community survey? The sheriff does it, community people annually community survey.
Are you doing a community survey annually of some kind?
Annually, yes.
Oh, no, we are not.
Okay.
Not at this point. That might, so as we start to do a plan, that might be something Abdus you want to.
That's a really good idea. I like that.
Another question I have is, actually, I believe that between police department and community has a gap. So is it a gap because a lot of issue, a lot of cultural issue, a lot of thing issue? So as I know my culture, you did not know anything like that. So is it a very important to hiring more minority African American, brown community or others, so they can take the leading and bring it the leadership and bring it the community, come down the gap between police department and community. So they understand each other. So this is important to sheriff department in futures, because I see all of the recent incident or everything is not involved too much minority people. There are not too much minority people involved. So there, I believe that we should hire a more percentage training and also minority people hiring. So
Thank you, Abdus. This is really what we're going to be doing. You're making recommendations, which are great. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing on the next panels. This is more, today is really more about just getting clarity about what the.
I'll be talk about some, I have some guidelines, so I have some points. So I'll be talking, I have a schedule tomorrow. I'll be talking about that. Thank you. I thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Testria, did you have a question?
Hi, Supervisor.
Hi, guys. Hi, Sheriff Bartlett. I actually just wrote a brief statement. I'll be quick, and I would like to email it to Sherry to be included on the website where other speakers were able to include their blurbs. I want to thank everyone for being here and to all who have put in so much work into this process so far. I want to especially thank Chairman Morrell for advertising the panel and allowing community members to submit their interest in serving on the panel. I've watched all of the 3 community input panels, and I thank all of the community members who took the time to share their personal stories and experiences. And I've read all of the questions submitted via the website thus far, and also thank all community members who took the time to write in with their comments, questions, and concerns. I also want to thank Sheriff Bartlett for being here to participate in what can at times, I'm sure, be difficult conversations. It is through the most difficult and uncomfortable conversations that we as people, professionals, and community members can grow and learn the most to become the best versions of ourselves that we can be. Our goal as elected officials should always be to grow and learn and to strive to be the best that we can every day and to serve our bosses, the public, in ways that are the most supportive and helpful. In listening to the community panel, it seems that most people have had very positive interactions with our sheriff's office, which is wonderful and certainly speaks to Sheriff Bartlett and his entire team. I too have had only positive interactions with the sheriff's department. That said, I do not believe that we are here to talk about our positive experiences or take time talking about how great our experiences have been. As a woman, I have experienced inappropriate behaviors that men have never experienced, but just because they haven't experienced it doesn't make it any less true for me. I can only imagine how frustrating it must feel to be a person in this county who has had a bad experience with the police to feel that they have a place for their voice to be heard through this reform panel, only to then hear over and over again that others have had great experiences. I believe that we're here to listen to those who have not had the same positive experiences that we have had. I believe that we're here to look at where we as a county can do better so that all residents of the county have the same positive experiences that many of us have had. I want to be clear that in my opinion, this process is not about whether or not Sheriff Bartlett is a good guy or whether or not his staff is amazing, but rather about the structure that we have in place for policing, what policing means in our culture, and whether or not that definition serves all of our residents in the best way possible. This conversation is not about whether or not we support the police, but rather about how we can better support the police and the residents. Could we better serve our residents and take a load off the already full plates of our sheriff's department by having trained mental health professionals go on some of the non-criminal and mental health calls? This is what they've recently done with the STAR program in Denver, Colorado, where they send a paramedic and mental health professional to 911 calls coming in for mental health emergencies with no physical threat. They are also running a pilot program like this in New York City, LA's, and cities all over the country. This model has been followed with great success for over 30 years in Eugene, Oregon, with the program called Cahoots. Cahoots costs roughly $2 million per year and saves taxpayers roughly $8.5 million per year in public safety costs and another roughly $14 million per year in ambulance trips and ER visits. Around 20% of Eugene's police calls get routed to Cahoots, and they respond to calls regarding people feeling extreme anxiety or to mediate conflict between roommates or family members. The responders to these calls have years of training for mental health emergencies, as opposed to police departments who receive maybe a few days a year of this training. There's 2 links that I'll post when I send it to Sherry that you can read more about these programs. And this is just one example of the types of conversations that I would like to be having on this panel. How do we best support our police officers? How do we best support our community members? Doesn't it make sense to not ask law enforcement to respond to every single call coming in, knowing that they cannot be trained for everything, but instead leaving our police department responsible for keeping us safe and responding to calls in which public safety are threatened, freeing them up to deal with the situations they are most trained to deal with, and allowing professionals trained specifically in mental health to deal with calls for these types of incidents. I hope that we as a panel can really dig in, look at the data in an unbiased way, examine whether how we are doing things is working, and be open to conversations as to how we can do it better. I did have a list of about 5 questions, but I will save that for another night because it sounds like, according to Newell, that's more of a tomorrow night conversation. But that's my piece I just wanted to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Dan? You need to unmute your phone. I can't do that, yeah.
Working on it, just waiting for the red button to pop up. So, yeah, just a couple of questions / thoughts. I wanted to ask Sheriff Bartlett. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Very thorough. I learned a lot, and I thought I knew a lot about the Sheriff's Department. So thank you. In terms of that one slide that you showed us, the data having to do with the arrests, do you have any idea how that corresponds or correlates to the percentages of the composition of the county as a whole in terms of the breakout of white, black, and others? Because, yeah, we saw the arrest rate for white individuals was, of course, disproportionately higher, but we know that Columbia County's composition of individuals that would identify them as white, identify themselves as white, is significantly higher. So any idea on how that shakes out?
Dan, we could look into that. But again, we don't dictate who is out committing crimes. We don't,
Right.
we aren't targeting anybody. We aren't, if we were, somebody would be in serious trouble. This is
Right.
what we respond to. I mean, we would have to dig into it and really look at, that's 22 years worth of data that you had sitting there in front of you.
Yeah, and I'm not implying that the sheriff's department does that. That's absolutely not what I'm implying. It's just
I know that.
as I saw that PowerPoint slide, I just thought to myself, okay, that's interesting because it captures that piece of data, but how does that relate to, the breakout of the county in terms of rates? That's all. So it would put that data in a more specific and succinct context. So that's why I was asking the question.
Okay.
The other question kind of piggybacks on what was just presented, which is any idea, even if it's anecdotal, because it sounds like what you really track through the arrests is you refer to it as the fingerprinted arrests. So any idea in terms of the overall percentage, even if it's a guess, of the types of calls that would be of the sort where a mental health professional, if they were responding or were accompanying, could be utilized? What it sounds like now is that you all respond, your officers, deputies respond, and then when indicated, MCAT is contacted to be the resource for that particular call. So any idea, even if it's just anecdotal, how things would look if in a year's worth of time or a 6-month snapshot, how many of those calls that came in were of the sort where a behavioral health professional could have been a resource in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, Dan, no, I don't really have any idea how to do that because most of them don't start out as a mental health call. You may go to a domestic, you may get a call of a person walking down the roadway and it's a simple, just check the welfare. And you may get there at that point and be like, oh boy, this person's in crisis. What's going on? So as far as it being just cut and dry where, oh yeah, that's a mental health call. A lot of them, you don't know that until you arrive on site. And then it's like, oh yeah, this person, there's something going on and this person needs some help, whether again, a domestic, a fight, whether it's just, you may get a call that you do know it's a mental health call.
Right.
Okay. Where it's, oh, okay, yeah, this is somebody, maybe it's somebody we've had in the past and we know that this person's got. A lot of them, no, we don't know. And you just deal with it when you get on site and go from there.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I wasn't expecting you to come up with an answer per se, Dave, but I'm curious as to how those programs that were mentioned activate the behavioral health worker to go out on the call, or because there can't be a behavioral health worker in every single patrol car that's out on the street at that time. So they must have some mechanism of figuring out how to get that behavioral health worker to respond to the call.
Yeah, like MCAT will call us. Again, there's a couple times that we've called them, well, more than a couple, where we've had them respond to scenes. And I would rather hand it over to a mental health professional. I'm a cop. I'm not a mental health professional. We get training, but that's it. And it can work out better for the person overall than just having a police officer there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Bill Hughes, you're up next.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff, for the presentation. I know a lot of people didn't know that information. I knew most of it, but even for me, some of it was enlightening. And also, congratulations on your accreditations. I think that's impressive as well. I did have a question in regards to the accreditation, though, and maybe you can answer and maybe not. My question is how often does the agency that do the accreditation update themselves as far as what programs they look at? Because from what I saw that you presented, there's not much attention given to racial sensitivity or racial diversity.
You got to remember, Bill, the accreditation program is overseen by the state of New York. And so all those standards are sent down by the state. So that's what have to be followed and overseen in those standards. And then the policies attached to those standards. So if the state doesn't have a standard for that, then you don't have to attach a policy to it.
Understood. So that means, when we start talking about this and we send our policies out, we might want to reference that to the state as well.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else who hasn't had a chance want to say something tonight? Otherwise, we can start talking about how we're going to reorganize tomorrow night.
Well, I just, before we do that, Newell, I just wanted to say that I want to thank the sheriff because it was a thorough presentation, and I think we need that baseline before moving forward. And that's also why we wanted to have some brief presentations from our part-time police departments who are participating in this as well. So we do have the baseline, and then hearing from Beth and Dan about what they're doing currently and what they feel they could be doing in terms of working with law enforcement on these issues. So, I know it's a lot, and I fully anticipated that we were going to have to audible at some point in time, which we are doing. But if it takes another, as I said to Newell when we met, this may take 4 or 5 of these sessions, not just 2. We started out with 2, and we figured we'd see where we are, and then we would schedule out further. So Newell, I guess let's talk about rescheduling. What are we gonna?
Well, my thought is that tomorrow night we could start with what we were going to do for the second part of tonight, right? In other words, if it works for the town sheriffs to speak, and then listen to really the mental health professionals, and then do kind of the same thing we just did tonight with it, and that be the next meeting. And then what we had planned for tomorrow, we move on to a future meeting, a new day.
So I just want to get it clear, Noel. So because the email I have has several different links on it that bounces us around to different groups. So
Yeah.
we would push that back, and a new link would be sent to us for a singular meeting where we're getting the presentation from the people who haven't spoke so far.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Well,
And
I'll summarize that.
I'll send out a new link tomorrow morning that everyone will be able to sign in on.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll get a new link, and I'm estimating that we were probably looking at another 90 minutes of a presentation tonight anyway, so we can definitely do that tomorrow night and then move what we had planned. Who knows? Something could come up tomorrow night and we could shift things again, but
I like
And
to
why don't we say 6 o'clock?
6.
5:30?
Yeah.
I think that would be better for most people.
Yes, 6 o'clock will work.
Thumbs up for 6 o'clock. Put your thumbs up if 6 works for you guys. All right. Seeing mostly thumbs. That's the finger I want to see. Okay, good.
And before we finish tomorrow, we will schedule the future dates. So Newell, we can talk before the meeting and see what your availability is.
Sure.
There's also been a lot of comments on YouTube too as well, so.
Yeah, so I will organize a lot of that tomorrow and get those formatted and get those sent out to you ahead of time.
Noel, can I ask a quick question? If 6 doesn't work for me, which is fine, if it's just going to be like tonight where we're actually just listening, I could just listen on YouTube at 7, right? I mean, it's not going to be Q&A. It's really going to be listening to the presentations.
I like a 7 o'clock is good for me.
I mean, 7 I already have in my schedule. I can't make 6, which is fine. I don't want people, you can continue without.
Oh, right, that's right, yeah.
If it's just us watching presentations, I can certainly start watching at 7 o'clock the YouTube video. So as long as others are okay with that, I'm fine with that.
That's fine.
Okay.
We're staying with 6.
6 o'clock.
Okay. I'll look forward to seeing you there then. Have a good dinner beforehand, huh? Thanks. Matt, you want to, before we close up?
Thank
No,
you.
just again, like to thank everyone and, we knew it was going to take more than 2 sessions, so I don't have an issue with us sort of moving this around a little bit, but I'm going to repeat that. I think it's important to know what our sheriff's department is doing and what our other police agencies are doing, just to have that baseline, before we do break into groups and start talking about new concepts or programs or whatever. Because we don't want to reinvent the wheel either. There's a lot of good that is going on, and there are things, as the sheriff has said, that we can probably improve on.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Let's call it a night.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye for
Thanks,
now.
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
You.